Hi everybody, so I'm Cyrus Todiwala from Café Spice Namasté. You're in my demo academy kitchen, and we are today going to make some chicken tikka, a very simple style of chicken tikka. Okay, chicken tikkas differ, every tikka differs, but the whole idea is to first explain to you what the meaning of the word tikka is. So we hear the word tikka all the time, and it's used in different forms, different formats. But tikka simply means a piece, means a cube. So we hear the word tikka thrown everywhere. You see it in supermarkets, you see it everywhere. But what does the word tikka mean? Tikka means a piece, means a cube or a piece. It means nothing else, ideally. And it could be a piece of meat, it could be a piece of vegetable. It's like we call it a cube, we call it a dice, we call it a brunoise. Whatever we call it, that way is the word given to tikka. Okay? So it's not a brunoise, but it's a piece. Slightly larger, maybe an inch by inch or 2.5 centimeters. But a piece of meat is actually called a tikka. So I'm going to just cut a few pieces of chicken today. But on our menu, we have different tikkas. We have beef, we have venison, we have lamb, we have another different kind of chicken called cafreal, but that's a Portuguese influenced chicken. This one is, of course, now more North Indian, but originally again, tikka is a Persian word. It is not an Indian word. And that's where it originated from. And when Persian cooking came into India, these things got adapted, and the world calls it different. The world thinks it's all Indian food, whereas it actually is originally Persian. So we go some chicken there, and we have our chicken here. So first things first, I have lime juice. So a bit of lime juice, not too much, just a bit. Okay, that is one breast of chicken. Key ingredients. So let's go again. Key ingredients. Yogurt, very, very important. So yogurt originally was also added for tenderizing the meat. So the lactic acid in the yogurt, when you marinate the meat, of course it must stay for a few hours. We are not going to do that. Ideally 8 to 9 hours or overnight. And not to forget that until recent years, chickens were not farmed. They were running all over the place. So the meat was much tougher, much muscular. So they needed things to soften the meat down. Yogurt is one of those key ingredients that softens meat down. Okay? So lime juice I added. Now what we add, we don't add color to the chicken. So tikka is not this gloopy red stuff. Like I explained, tikka just means a cube of meat, vegetable or anything. That's the meaning of the word tikka. It's a piece. What you add to it adds the flavor, and that gives it the name of the chicken tikka, name of the tikka. So this is a regular tikka, not a fancy one. And we have different marinades for different tikkas on the menu. But again, we don't put color, but we do add a bit of tomato paste. Now that is not common throughout India, so don't please take my word for it we add it because it gives a bit of color, but it also tends to bring the meat together and doesn't allow it to lose too much of its juices. Okay, now in India, ideally, they would use mustard oil. We don't use mustard oil in this country as much because some of the mustard oil has been not proven to be healthy, and there are restrictions on the use of mustard oil. So not everybody can use mustard oil, but we definitely can use mustard. The only thing is you have to mention it on your allergen list. So mustard will be mentioned, dairy will be mentioned. Now this is ginger garlic paste. Okay, now ginger and garlic paste is the most commonly used. Now it's still a masala, because a masala is a combination of any two spices or condiments or whatever. We call everything a masala. Every masala has a definition, has a different name, and it is normally dry. When you make a sauce which is liquid, you cannot call it a masala. It has to be dry to be called a masala. Okay? Otherwise, it has its own name. So ginger garlic paste is the most common used. In our kitchen, we may use 10-15 kilos a week. Bigger kitchens will use much, much more. It becomes the base for making your curries, your sauces, your gravies, your marinades, most things, okay? Ginger garlic paste. And then you have the bit of salt. So now, what goes into a typical tandoori masala is your cumin, your coriander, your chili, your turmeric, garam masala powder. Now garam masala, garam means warm, something that gives you warmth, which is why it's called garam masala. And garam masala are two kinds. The first, what we use whole spices, without powdering them, without crushing them, that's also garam masala. And that's called khada garam masala or whole garam masala, which is in my little box here. Then you have ground garam masala. Now, all spices contain oil with the exception of peppercorn. Peppercorns not only don't have any oil, they have no nutritional value. But they do a very important job in our digestive system because they agitate the pituitary glands and they make you salivate. As the body salivates, it digests food better. So pepper is extremely important in digesting hot food, spicy food, greasy food, oily food, and that's what it does to the system. It agitates the system, allows the acids to be released in the stomach, and food gets digested very easily, particularly if you're eating meats and heavy sauces. So a garam masala is cinnamon, cardamom, clove, peppercorn, nutmeg, mace, star anise, black cardamom, cassia bark, cumin, coriander seeds. All of these go in. You toast them very, very gently till they become crisp and the oils dry up inside the spice. Otherwise, you cannot powder it. You cannot get this fine powder if you just put all the spices into a blender or a coffee grinder and try to powder them. Try it. A cardamom will not powder finely unless it's fully toasted and crisp. It will not become fine powder. So to that, it takes a long time. Our own garam masala takes us about 2 days to make. It costs us roughly 120 pounds a kilo. Cheaper ready-made garam masala will cost you 25-30 pounds a kilo because they will add more cumin and more coriander, the cheaper elements, and make it cheaper. So garam masala very important. So what we have done, we made our own tandoori powder because we make a lot of it, we use a lot of it, and we sell a lot of it. So this has got everything that I mentioned in it, and it's just ready. So all we have to do is to take a spoonful and just add it there to the chicken, and my job is done. So now I'm going to mix up, okay? Now I would have mixed it up separately and then added the chicken to it, but you can do what I did. Make sure you mix it up well. And then you have to add a final ingredient, which is extremely important, a very important product, and that's a bit of oil. Now, why oil? Why oil? The important thing about oil is that when you're actually cooking in a tandoor, which is the classical, there are a few reasons. One of them is a tandoor is a vertical oven. So you generally skewer them, and the skewer goes at an angle inside the tandoor. The heat comes all around, but you cannot baste it. In an oven, you could baste your meat. In a tandoor, you cannot baste it. So the oil helps to keep the meat moist. First step. Number two, it's a preservative as well. So along with all the spices, when there's a film of oil on the top, you get a bit of preservative on the surface, considering that everything was developed in a very humid, very hot climate. Things were done to make sure that the meat did not spoil. One of the first things, because I have a ready-made masala, in India, we would have put turmeric on the chicken first. Turmeric will destroy all surface salmonella bacteria. It is a enemy of bacteria. It sterilizes the meat, it makes it safe for eating. Also, turmeric coagulates the meat a bit, so it prevents the juices from leaching out very quickly. And that's in our masala. Turmeric is very, very important. It's very essential in most cooking forms because of different kinds of cooking and because there is not always everywhere that there is refrigeration. Things are left outside. You need to make sure that the meat does not get contaminated, does not harm people, does not damage people's health. So turmeric became this essential ingredient in cooking most meats. Okay? So, bit of taste. That's it. That's how simple it is. Now, we're going to cook it almost immediately. So I'm going to turn the temperature up in my oven. And at a normal tandoor is 340 degrees heat. Okay, that's how hot a tandoor gets. Now, an oven is different, but you still want an oven to be as hot as possible. So if you are cooking it in a kitchen oven, if you're cooking it in a gastronome tray in an oven, then you need to keep it at maximum heat and minimum cooking, because you don't want the meat to overcook and you don't want the meat to lose all its moisture. By putting it on low heat, the meat will leach all its moisture out and the tikka becomes dry. We prefer to use thigh meat, but traditionally in Britain everybody likes a breast. Okay, and you can use breast, nothing wrong with it. Just make sure that you cook your breast at the right temperature so that you do not destroy your meat. Now, this ideally would have to stay 8 hours to 9 hours. We would keep it in the marinade, and that would then be cooked at a very rapid pace. So 340 degrees, 5 minutes max. Okay, in a tandoor. In an oven, take about 6 to 8 minutes, 6 to 7 minutes, 6 to 8 minutes. But you must allow the meat to rest a bit, and then it cooks through beautifully. You don't want your tikka dry. You still want it moist inside, and you want it to be juicy. Okay? Doesn't mean that if a piece of breast is juicy, it is raw. It doesn't have to be that. If the meat is raw, you can see it. You can make out that the meat is raw. If the meat is juicy, that's what a person wants to eat, because it has to be succulent and juicy. So we'll come to that in a minute. My oven's not fully heated yet. Right, so oven's hot enough now. So this particular domestic oven can go to 300 degrees, not all can. So I've taken the advantage of putting it up to 300, just so we get a nice color on the top as well. And yeah, by mistake, I should have put the rack on top. You must always put the rack on top. I'll take this out and I'll put it on the top. Okay. 6 minutes up, 7 minutes up. We've left it in the oven. It's looking really nice. I'm going to just turn my oven off because I don't need it. We'll open the door. And here we go. Chicken tikka out of the oven. What we'll do now is to test and see if the chicken is cooked. Okay? So I have a spoon and say it must cut like butter. But I'll show you the pieces. Where's the cut piece? We'll open another one. Look, fully cooked, but juicy. The idea is, of course, to let it rest for a minute before we serve it. Okay, so I'm going to gather all the masala together. Pick up a nice. And that's what chefs do. Make a lot of noise. Let's put it out on the platter. I'll put the cut pieces in the front. Okay, now you have one advantage when you make it in the oven as opposed to cooking it in the tandoor. You get this lovely masala. Okay, so we can coat it with the masala, which not necessarily in the tandoor because it will all be dripping down and getting lost on the charcoal or the gas, whichever kind of tandoor you have got. But if you see how thick and lovely it is, it's got a great gloss on it. And that, kids, is our chicken tikka, not masala.